Hello everybody, welcome along to my channel. My name's Suzanne and I garden and grow cut flowers in Devon in the UK. And today we need to lift and store the dahlias. Well, you don't have to lift your dahlias, but I lift mine. The reason I lift my dahlias is because I find if I don't, in the spring as they start to try and shoot, the slugs are terrible at just chewing off all the new growth and the dahlias just really struggle to really get going. So I lift my dahlia tubers so that in the spring I can start them in containers, and that way when I plant them out in the garden they've got a good amount of leaf growth, and the slugs find it much harder to slow them down. I think I probably get slightly earlier flowers by starting them in pots as well. If I were going to leave them in the ground here, which actually some in my garden I do leave in the ground, you need to make sure you've got very well drained soil. You wouldn't want to leave them somewhere where they get really waterlogged. And you can actually cover the area with like a tarpaulin or something just to keep the ground underneath dry. But anyway, I will be lifting mine and that's what we're going to do in today's video. So I've already got some tags and some jute twine for which I've labelled some variety I've got. This is Pulverton Christabel, so that when I lift them I can tag them. Now last year I lost all my dahlias, and I've been growing dahlias a long time, so it was a bit of a shock. I always lift them, I never wash them, I just brush off most of the soil and then I store them in, well, ordinarily I've used sort of miscanthus bedding, and I've stored them in crates for ventilation, not in anything plastic. But what happened last year was when I lifted them, we were going through a wet spell, which it's raining now, we're going through a wet spell again now. And then last year what happened, so I lifted them, brushed them off, put them in their miscanthus, put them in their crates, put them in my tack room, but then they didn't have time to dry out in the tack room before we had a really cold snap, and it was so cold that water buckets in the stables and things were freezing. Of course that meant if it was freezing indoors, it also froze indoors in my tack room, and it froze all of my tubers through, and then as they thawed out they would just mush, so they were all destroyed. So this year I'm going to do the same, but I'm not putting them in my tack room. I'm going to park my crates off down to my parents' house, and my dad has a really well insulated outbuilding, and it also has a wood fuel boiler that runs their underfloor heating and their hot water. So also it keeps the temperature above freezing in there. If you put a bucket of water in there and left it in there all winter, it wouldn't freeze. So I'm hoping that by putting my dahlias in there, they will be okay. I don't think I'm going to go out and dig them up right now. I think I'll just wait for this heavy shower to disappear, and then we'll go and see what we're dealing with. So these poor dahlias here are looking very sorry for themselves. These are the ones that I either grew from seeds or from cuttings. So you need to make sure you've had them in the ground for 140 days if you want to dig up a tuber, if you've grown them from cuttings. If you dig them up too soon, there's a chance you won't actually have a tuber in there. The ones here, which were Bishop's Children, I'm not actually even that worried about them. They were all bright red, so I don't think I'm even going to dig them up today. But the ones that I want back here, I only have one of each variety, so I'm going to start with these because these are the precious and most important ones to me. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and try and find, but they're all quite leant over, so I've got to find where I can actually see the base of the plant. So I think we're about here. I've not cut the foliage off yet. So I might, in some cases, I might need it to help me identify who I've got. Okay, so we've got a tuber, so that's good news. Right, we'll cut that off now because this one's actually got a label. So I'm not going to need the foliage to identify it. Well, not the foliage, but any last minute flowers hanging on. So this is Amy Cave, and I really like this one, so I want to take cuttings from this one next year. So we'll get the brush and give her a brush off, and then we'll tag her. But you can see, so this was just growing from a cutting, and that's a nice sized tuber there. So yeah, so I don't wash them, but I just give them a brush with quite a hard brush. They're wet enough as it is without getting them any wetter. And I'm also looking for any signs of crown gall or anything on the tubers while I do this, because obviously if there's any signs of anything like that, then I won't keep them. Just see this bit fell off. I'll just see if it looks like it will have an eye. I don't think it will, so that'll just go in the compost. Right, let's get my tag. The reason I'm going to use my tag and not the tag it comes with is just because I want to be able to tie it onto the stalk that I'm going to leave there. I will just take off this bit here. I don't need quite that much stalk. Right, let's get the label. Okay, so there she is. So then I'll just secure that onto here. I'm just going to do a double knot, make sure it's nice and tight. And then I'm just going to put her in an empty crate for a minute. But eventually, obviously, I'm going to put something in there to keep them warm and cosy. Okay, so let's see who we've got next. That's Status. Oh, she must have been that one that side. Okay, so just found the base of the plant again. Gosh, it's very, very wet in here. I don't think these would stay in the ground over the winter without rotting. You hear the ground squelching under my feet. Right, now has this one got a label? It's not looking promising for a label, and also haven't quite got underneath it yet. So this is why I wanted to just keep, so I haven't got a label, but I've got this flower, so I can use this to help identify this one. I've got another flower there, so hopefully, I'm not sure if that might be Jamander, but at least I've got those flowers to check who it is. Now you can see how clayey the soil was on this one. So yeah, we want to get some of that really heavy soil off of there. Not such a good size tuber on that one, but still enough to grow. This way I can make sure all the worms don't just get washed down the drain. Brush them off back into the bed where they can do some good. Alright, being a bit more careful with this one because the tubers, well, it's got got enough to grow, but I don't want to knock all of these ones off. I'm pretty sure that this is Jamander, so that's who I'm going to label it as. Okay, let's put a label on Jamander and see who else we've got down here. Okay. This one was prolific flowering. If you want a dahlia that will just give and give and give and give and give, then I recommend this one. This, oh, there's a flower I can show you as well. So Rycroft Blackberry was prolific, but was prone to having these white little sections in it. So it depends on how picky you are. But if you just want loads of flowers, then yeah, Rycroft Blackberry was brilliant for that. Again, to have these tubers a bit fleshier, you would have wanted to leave these in the ground a little bit longer, but you can just see how wet and clayey the soil here is. But there is, you know, a few tubers that are quite nice and plump. And this, you know, it should still be enough for it to produce next year. But the longer you can leave them in the ground, the better chance of having good tubers. Although I would say they probably now would stop putting energy into the tubers anyway now. So, you know, you've got to risk it really, I think, at this time of year, because we're right in the middle of November now. So yeah, I wouldn't want to look at all these worms. I wouldn't want to leave them in any longer. Not the precious ones anyway. I might leave the ones that are planted from seed and just see what does happen. Right, okay, so who was this? This is Rycroft Blackberry, so I'll just get the label. Okay. Right now, have I got a flower from this one? Oh, I think this is Le Corbière, but we'll dig it up and see what we think. No, this is actually the flower from it. The Le Corbière was leaning over. This is another one that's prolific, but again, another one that is prone to these white, and it's another one of the Rycroft, but this one is, no, not Rycroft, sorry, this is Rosemary Dawn. But again, just has these odd pink petals in it, but very prolific flowering, and I really like this one. Oh my gosh, I can hear the squelching of how wet it is in here. lost the brush now. I don't think I've got a label for Rosemary Dawn, so I'm going to have to put it to one side with its flower. If I can find what I did with its flower actually. Oh, there. Gosh, the soil is so heavy here. That's because these beds were only put in last winter, so the soil does improve the more it's mulched and the more it's amended, but these yeah, very new beds are still very, very heavy. But you know, clay gets a bad rap, but it's full of nutrition. I hear people say about, you know, adding grit and sand, and that's the last thing you want to do. You're more or less making cement if you add clay to grit and sand. What you want is just loads of organic matter. Right, okay, so I just will check for a sign again, but I don't think I've got one. Gosh, I can't see what's going on here. They're all leaning over so much. Ah, here we go. Here's somebody. They got a label. They are La Corbière. So that was that one that I just threw in the mud. Not very prolific, that one. So it'll be interesting to see what the tube is like on it. But a nice colour. A bit yellower than I thought it was going to be. In the pictures, I think they make out it's a lot like creamer, but it's a very, very pale yellow with sort of a hint of pink. I was suspicious about that because it's happened once before. So the tuber is really insignificant on this one. It is there, but whether or not you'd be able to grow from it, it didn't produce very well, so that makes a lot of sense now. It's possible that it just kept getting wind rocked and disturbed, but no, there's no more tuber in the ground there. I don't think I would rush out to replace it though. I mean, it was nice, but I mean, you never know though. These little mini tubers might get away, so we'll keep it. But I just yeah, it will be very lucky if it does, but I like to gamble. Oh, I'm making such a mess of the grass path just walking on them. It's so wet. It's just so hard to do any gardening on this soil now, and I've got so much to do. Okay, who's this then here? Oh, it's so wet. I really liked this dahlia, but again, I've not got much of a tuber to go on, especially because this one's hanging off. But this was Pulverton Christabel, but we'll label it up and give it a go. Again, I would say it's just been really badly wind rocked, but I'll definitely keep it. Can't see, but actually where I'm digging them up, there is actually, the water table is right there. They're actually sitting in water. Anyway, this is Rosemary Blush coming out now. I didn't cut off her at all because she was sacrificial. She just had so much earwig damage. She had tons and tons of flowers, but just, yeah, every one of them was so badly damaged. I mean, I'm surprised she produced so much with such a little tuber, but she did. So I've just started digging up the other dahlias who are here. Now these dahlias are in a bed that is one of my pre-existing beds, so it's not a new bed. And the difference in the soil, it's nowhere near as claggy, much drier. And this is a dahlia that wasn't as it had been advertised. So I've got to make a label for this because it's not, it was supposed to be a dahlia called Ambition, but I'll show you what it looks like. So it's this really nice pale purpley pink. I really like it. So the Ambition, in fact I think I prefer it to Ambition. This is who it was supposed to be and this is who it is, but actually they work really well together. But actually Ambition's going to move to my garden, but I probably will keep this one as cut flower, but I just need to make up some label for it at the moment. We'll just call it Lilac Dahlia or something. I don't know what I mean. But these were all planted as tubers, so I know there will be tubers for these. I finished doing the ones over there, and unfortunately there was, oh, who was it? Newland's Josephine there. I couldn't find a tuber for, so I'll have a look in the brochure and see what I think. I'm going to try not to buy any new dahlias next year. You've heard those famous words before, but it probably will happen. So I don't divide my tubers now because I don't wash them off. I will just store these now, and any divisions happen in the spring when I put them up. Just trying to get a look at the crown. But my soil, even though it's not as bad as down there, is still very heavy soil. Right, so I just have to actually write a label for that one. But no, good solid tuber. I'm going to chuck this one. You can just see all these little fused knobbly bits here, and they're on the end here as well. And I just don't think it's worth the risk. I'm going to have to go and wash my hands now because I've touched this as well, and I don't want to carry on digging up healthy tubers. But no, that's one for the bin. Put you away now because it's raining, and my tablet's already sellotaped up. And I'll carry on digging these up, and I'll let you know how I get on when I finish. So these are all of the tubers which I'm discarding. Some of them more obviously suspect than others. I'll try and find one that's really obvious for you. Oh, here's a good one, a good example of crown gall. You see this big clump of sort of shoots trying to emerge from the same point in the tuber, so that's crown gall. So the other examples are ones where I'm just not prepared to take a risk. I mean, this one's quite another good example here, and then some not so obvious, but to me, I don't like all of these shoots clumped here. And I mean, this one potentially could be okay, but I didn't like the top of this eye here. All those shoots look fused to me. So anyway, how many am I chucking away? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm chucking 8 away. But also my creme de cassis, I couldn't find them. They just weren't in the ground. They've obviously rotted away. And there was another one I couldn't find. So they just weren't there, just missing tubers. Anyway, I managed to get the job done. So this is the mess that was left, that was my dahlia bed. So now it's a case of taking down all of the ties and covering this over for the winter. I won't have time to cover crop it now, so I'll probably cover it with some sheep's wool and some carpet.
So this is the wood boiler that keeps this boiler room at my parents' property frost free. It's not too hot in here, luckily, because it's really well insulated. And you can see I've actually decided to use my favourite product in the world this year, sheep's wool, to wrap around the dahlias. And I've just used that instead of the miscanthus or sawdust that I usually use. And honestly, that was just because my dad didn't really want crumbs of sawdust or miscanthus in his nice clean boiler room, despite the fact there probably is some sawdust in there because he cuts logs in there. But they look like they're going to be tucked up okay in there. So fingers crossed, bit of an experiment. Wait and see.
Thanks very much for joining me today as I lifted my dahlia tubers. I hope you have best of luck with yours if you're lifting them, and if not, I hope you get them all tucked in, ready to go through the winter. And I'll see you in the next video.